There was a time when car commercials weren't just about mileage or safety ratings. They were little films, loud, proud, and dripping with personality. The 1970s gave us some of the wildest, most unforgettable car ads in history. They were bold, sometimes shocking, and often completely unfiltered. From cigarettes and sexism to stunts that would make insurance companies faint today, the 70s had it all. Looking back, these ads feel like windows into a world that was more reckless, more free, and definitely less careful about what was appropriate. So buckle up, because today we're looking at 10 car ads from the 70s that would never air today. 1. Real Men Drive Mavericks. Ford Maverick, 1970. Back in 1970, Ford decided that owning a Maverick made you a real man. The commercial showed rugged men with mustaches and flannel shirts, tossing hay bales and winking at women. The narrator's deep voice growled, "Maverick, for men who don't follow rules." At the time, it was meant to celebrate independence. But by today's standards, the ad feels like a time capsule of outdated gender roles. Not a single woman was behind the wheel. They were all in the passenger seat, smiling and impressed. Still, it captured that raw American spirit, a country obsessed with horsepower, pride, and personal freedom. It sold over 500,000 cars in its first year. But today, that kind of macho-only marketing would have every focus group shaking their heads. 2. You meet the nicest people on a Honda Civic, 1973. Technically, this campaign began in the 60s for motorcycles, but its 1973 revival for cars brought the same charm. The ad featured teachers, moms, even nuns, all smiling as they drove tiny Civics through sunny suburbs. The message was simple. Honda wasn't just for daredevils anymore, it was for everyone. But here's the catch. It was also the middle of the oil crisis. Americans were panicking about gas prices, and this ad painted small cars as the new American dream. Today, it would be hard to imagine an ad so innocent, so carefree, without being drowned in disclaimers. The cheerful jingle, the slow pans of happy families, it all felt like a warm breeze before reality hit. Honda didn't just sell cars that year, they sold optimism. 3. The Dodge Dude, Dodge Trucks, 1971. Picture this: a cowboy hat, denim jacket, and a truck called the Dude. This Dodge ad tried to blend the Old West with modern muscle, and it worked for a while. The commercial opened with a man driving through dusty plains while a voice said, "He's not just a man, he's a Dodge Dude." Women waved as he passed, horses reared, guitars twanged. It was absurd, but in a lovable way. Today, it would raise eyebrows for its manliness equals worth message, and maybe a few laughs at the over-the-top swagger. Still, the Dude became a collector's favorite. It's a reminder that the 70s were a time when even trucks had personalities and names you couldn't forget. Enter the Playboy ad, Chevrolet Camaro, 1972. In 1972, Chevrolet ran a Camaro ad in Playboy magazine. The copy read, "It's a little something for your midlife crisis, even if you're only 25. The ad showed a sleek black Camaro parked beside a woman in a swimsuit. Subtlety wasn't the goal, fantasy was. Back then, car makers didn't shy away from using sexuality to sell horsepower. But by today's advertising standards, it's a definite no-go. Still, it captured that era perfectly. Fast cars, fast lives, and the belief that youth could be bought in chrome and steel. And for many it worked. Camaro sales soared that year. Our Volvo, the car that thinks it's a tank, 1974. Volvo's 1974 commercial was shocking. Literally, they dropped a car from a crane onto concrete, then drove it away as if nothing happened. The narrator said, "It's not fancy, it's not fast, but it'll save your life." No CGI, no stunt doubles, just raw metal and guts. The ad was so intense that some countries banned it, saying it promoted reckless behavior. But it cemented Volvo's reputation for safety. Today, the idea of smashing cars on live TV would be unthinkable. The lawsuits alone would crush it. Yet somehow, that one ad made everyone trust the name Volvo forever. 6. Chevy's Jet Car, Chevrolet Impala, 1970. This one looked straight out of a spy movie. Chevrolet filmed an Impala being airdropped from a cargo plane with parachutes. As the car floated down, the narrator boomed, "Chevy, strong enough to fly." It wasn't CGI, they actually did it. The ad was meant to show durability, but people were mostly shocked that they'd waste a car for TV. Today, environmental concerns and cost regulations would shut that down in a second. Still, it captured that wild 70s confidence knowing when bigger, louder, faster was all that mattered. 7. The Smoking Driver, Pontiac Grand Prix, 1973. In this ad, the driver, cool, calm, and collected, lights a cigarette while speeding down a highway. The camera lingers on the smoke, curling through sunlight as jazz music plays. It was cinematic, suave, and incredibly dangerous by today's standards. Back then, smoking was part of the cool image, even behind the wheel. But as times changed, cigarette ads disappeared, and with them, scenes like this. Still, there was something oddly poetic about it. Freedom, rebellion, and a touch of danger. It's the kind of image that only the 1970s could get away with. 8. The Baby in the Front Seat, Buick LeSabre, 1975. It's hard to believe now, but this ad proudly showed a baby sitting up front, smiling beside mom. Seatbelts were optional, and airbags didn't exist yet. The narrator said, "Plenty of room for the whole family, even the little ones." By modern standards, it's downright shocking. But in the 70s, car safety laws were still evolving, and nobody thought twice. The ad reflected a time when comfort came before caution. It feels almost haunting to watch now, a reminder of how far we've come in protecting families on the road. And the Pepsi Challenger, Plymouth Barracuda, 1971. This ad was pure showmanship. Plymouth set up a drag race between a Barracuda and a Pepsi delivery truck to prove their car was the real thirst quencher. The connection made no sense, but the visuals were unforgettable. Engines roared, tires smoked, and yes, they actually had Pepsi cans flying everywhere. It was absurd, loud, and gloriously 70s. Today, mixing a soda brand and a speeding car would raise every safety red flag imaginable. But back then, it was all part of the fun. Fast cars and faster ideas. 10. Datsun saves the day. Datsun 240Z, 1973. In this ad, a man's car breaks down in the desert until a woman zooms in driving a Datsun 240Z. She rescues him, offers him a ride, and leaves him speechless. It was one of the few ads of its time showing a woman as the hero and behind the wheel. But even then, it was framed as a joke. She drives a Datsun? Still, it struck a chord. Datsun sales skyrocketed, especially among younger drivers. Today it's seen as both problematic and progressive, a strange mix that only the 70s could pull off. Looking back at these ads feels like peering into a different America, a time when car companies sold dreams, not data, when danger was excitement, not a lawsuit. The cars were heavier, the gas was cheaper, and the stories were bolder. They weren't just selling transportation, they were selling freedom. And even though most of these ads could never air today, they remind us of something timeless, that deep human love for the open road. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, hit that like button, share it with someone who remembers these cars, and subscribe for more stories from the golden age of Chrome. This is American Rewind, where yesterday is always worth another look.